What's going on, everybody? My name is Ben, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Ben Builds with Joe. This is season 2, and that's right, we are teaming up again with our good buddy Joe over at Mad Jeans Productions. Last episode we had so much fun building that A6M3. So today we're going to go ahead and start another buddy build. We're going to go ahead and build a Russian aircraft, because as we all know, Russian aircraft are best aircraft, comrade. So we're going to go ahead and build an ICM Lagg-3. Now both of us are going to build the exact same ICM kit, but we are going to be differing in the series that we build. I'm going to be focusing on this. This is a Lagg-3 series 7 through 11, and it's 1/48th ICM kit, so it should be just fine. I believe Joe's going to do a different series. That's cool. We're going to focus on series 11. And this one here on the back, this is the version we're going to be building. And this is a Lagg-3 Series 11 that was flown in the summer of 1942 by a pilot named Captain V.P. Mironov of the 609th IAP. It's in the Murmansk area. Let's go ahead and shift over here, and we're going to open up the box. We're going to take a look at what's inside, give you guys a look at what we have in store for us. So let's go and open this up. The clear parts here are nicely protected in this bag, and I think they look pretty decent. They look clean enough, which is uncharacteristic of Russian canopies of the era, 1942, but they look decent enough. We'll put those aside so they don't get damaged. Now on the plastic, ICM plastic is usually kind of grainy and has a little bit of a rougher texture than, say, you would get like out of a Tamiya or a Hasegawa kit. This one here is no different. It has a little bit of a graininess to the plastic, but it's not horrible. If you can look here at the close-up, we can see we do have a couple of areas that need attention, like these front air intakes on either side of the cowling. Those have to be squared off and opened up. But it has beautiful panel lines. As you can see here on the top of the wing, we do have all the fuel filter caps, and we have some raised support detail here. It looks actually very, very clean, very nice. So that is a beautiful looking plastic. Even though it's a little bit on the grainy side, that's actually going to help our overall finish, because Laggs were notoriously rough finished anyway. Now onto the fuselage, we have a little bit of cleanup we do have to do. This is one of those parts that kind of popped off the sprue. We have a bunch of nose inserts for different versions. This kit itself has a couple of sink marks here and there, but it does have the basic parts and pieces and surface detail to go ahead and let us build anything from Series 1 all the way up to a Series 11. Now the inside of the cockpit, we have got a lot of nicely molded detail. As you can see, it looks pretty awesome. I think with a nice little dry brushing and some paint, it's going to look great. On the other side, we also have a beautiful rendering of the different gears and of course wiring. We've got our flare bag right there on the side, so lots of good detail there. Of course, this being one of those kits you can build multiple versions, we do have a bunch of different parts, like the front exhaust here. We have these older style. We also have some of the newer styles as well. So depending on what you're going to build, you got to make sure you're putting the right parts in. One of the main areas though that do suffer from this sort of different parts and pieces for different versions, that's the front nose. As you can see here, we have one that has 2 gun ports, and we have one that only has the left gun port. We have these 2 openings right behind those ports. Those are actually for the rifle caliber machine guns. We have those inserts that go on either side of that. Depending on the version you make, we either have Series 1 or up to Series 4 with those noses. But since we are building a Series 11, we are going to be using these noses here. Now, as you can see, we have 2 different noses. Both have just a single machine gun on the left-hand side of the cowling. Also, they'd have a 20mm cannon firing through the propeller hub, as you can see right here. So we are going to go with one of these. We're not going to be using this with these little flanges. We are actually going to be using the other one. So at least we know which ones we're going to be using. Moving on, of course, we do have the rockets that the Series 11 craft would have been equipped with. We also have drop tanks. The Series 11 was one of the first aircraft in the Lagg series to be given hard points for actual drop tanks. So at least as far as my references have told me. So overall, plastic looks decent enough. It's not perfect, but I think we can work with it. Now on the instructions themselves, they're pretty standard for ICM. We have the front here with all the part layouts. We have a couple of grayed out parts we're not going to be using. That's good to know. Those will be for the Series 1 through 4. On the inside, we start off with the cockpit. We move on down to the front nose. That's where we have the multiple different versions that we can build. We are going to be, like I said, focusing on Series 11, so we're not going to be having the rifle caliber machine guns. We're just going to have the left 50 caliber machine gun, and then plus the single 20 coming out of that propeller hub. Pretty decent though, doesn't look too bad. Looks like it'd be easy enough to follow. Of course, over here we have the rockets, we have all the drop tanks and things, we have the attachment points for those. I'm not sure exactly where they go, but we'll get to that when we get to that. We have the landing gear assembly, we have all the wheels and struts and all that good stuff. And then the final part here, we have the propeller. We have all the parts there. We have the exhaust ports, and we have the canopy, which can be modeled in open or closed versions. I'll probably try to do the open version, but we'll have to see when we get there. Now onto the color callouts here. We have a black and white image here of what we are going to be using for paint. This is a pretty standard black and dark green with a light blue base. So it's not really all that difficult. It's a Series 11 craft. That's what we're going to be building. On the other side of this, we are given the option of building a whitewashed Lagg-3. It's actually a different series. This is Series 7, but it's okay. I think we're going to stick with our Series 11. That's going to be a really great canvas to work off of. Now for the decals, ICM decals are notoriously just hard to work with. They usually break up in water or they break up on the model because they are so thin. As you can see here, we've got a nice array of the red stars. We've got some red stars that are blacked out. We've got that arrow. We've got the different numbers. We have a little bit of stencils here and there, but not a whole lot. If you can tell here, when I go ahead and rotate it, the actual decal is super flat, but the rest of it around it is super glossy, so they just don't have a nice clear coat. Now you can clear coat them, and that does help a lot when you're going ahead and trying to use them, but I just might have a different idea to go ahead and maybe bypass the use of these decals, maybe airbrush some of our own markings, or I have another little surprise for you that actually might be better fit. The front arrow here with this black with the red outline, that would be super hard to paint, but we might be able to come up with something a little bit different for that. We'll have to see as we get farther into the kit. Now I mentioned I had a little surprise here for you. This is it. This is a decal set that came from Sprue Brothers. And I have to say, this is actually a really nice set because it's got a ton of markings. It's got a bunch of details, a bunch of stencils. It's got a lot of the red stars. It even has the Kremlin red star. That's really cool. It's got a bunch of the tactical numbers, and of course in the back here it's got more of the stencils and some of the scripts that would have been along the side of the aircraft. So overall it's a very nice looking set. So this is really, really helpful, at least for the actual red stars. Unfortunately, this version here comes with a lot of different markings for later series Laggs, so like Series 66. So unfortunately we aren't going to be able to use just any old markings on these. We're going to have to pick and choose and make sure we're using the right ones for the right versions. So you can see here, this is the entire spread. We start out, we have a lot of different Laggs that we can choose from, of course, but we are kind of stuck to only building Series 7 through Series 11 type aircraft. And there's not really anything within that little bracket that really gets me excited to want to build it. The later, like the 66 series, those have some really cool markings, and I would love to build one of those, but you can't build a 66 with this particular kit, not without a little bit of modification. On the back side of this, we do have some Series 1, we have some Series 4s, and of course we have the later Series 66. So that's really nice to have, but we're not going to go ahead and focus on that just yet. We're going to save those for another kit that I have. It's an actual resin 1/48 scale Lagg-3 66 series by Vector. We might use these for that. Now at the very bottom of the page we have all of our stencils, and that's going to be really helpful because the kit doesn't have a lot of stencils in it. So these decals are going to come in super handy for all the extras. It actually came from Sprue Brothers and was included in the kit when I bought it off of eBay. So that's super, super helpful. And honestly, Lagg has some really cool markings, so it's nice to have a little bit of options. Moving on, guys, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about references. Now, like any model kit that I'm building, I love to have references to go ahead and look into and learn more about my subject. Here, in this case, we have a couple different books. I'll go ahead and show them to you. The first book we have here is Lagg Fighters in Action. Of course, it's a tried and true standard squadron signal publication book, aircraft number 163, and it goes through the entire development of the Lagg series. Awesome black and white photos showing a lot of different Laggs in a lot of different situations. We can use this for references for the rockets, for the drop tanks. It goes through the operational history of the Lagg, goes from the very first series all the way up to the 66 series, which is the final series. I think they built in like 1943 when they stopped production in favor of the LA5 and the LA5FN. And of course, we have a whole section on just the 11th series, brief history, and we have some of the changes that happened during the production run. And I can already tell there's one area we're going to have to figure out, and that's the bottom of the fuselage. Right here on the kit part, we have a step right here with the trailing end of that oil cooler. And the actual Lagg-3 11 series, that area wasn't stepped. It was a nice sweeping line back to the tail. So that's going to be a little difficult to go ahead and figure out how we're going to mold that. We're going to have to change it. So that's going to be something new for sure. Now I'm actually focusing on building that 11th series Lagg, and this is the actual one that I'm going to be building. So you can see here it's the one on the front of the box, and it's also one on the back of the box. This is a great picture to have because it shows the actual airplane that I'm going to be building. That's super helpful. Also, I was poking around the internet and I came across a website, the link down in the description for you guys, but it is absolutely fantastic for Russian aircraft, and I found a colorized photo of this exact image. Here it is, I'll pop it up on the screen for you there. As you can see, it is a color photo, and that is super helpful because we now have an idea of how this aircraft would have looked in actual color, as opposed to black and white. I'll put the link in the description below, but it's actually from Soviet warplanes. That's one of the sites that I'm actually going to be using extensively. It's got a whole section on this one particular Lagg, so that's going to be super helpful. Now that's not all though. We do have another book that I want to go ahead and show you guys. We have one other one, and that is an Osprey book. It's this right here, Lagg and Lavochkin Aces of World War II. And again, it does cover both the Lagg and the LA series, like the LA5 all the way up to the LA7. So it has a lot of information that we're not going to be using. But it has a whole section right in the beginning dealing just with the Lagg-3, the pilots that flew it, the stories around it, and its developmental process. So that's really, really cool. So you can see lots of good pictures with the guns, and it had a notoriously leaking engine, just like the Yak-1 had. So it has all this information in there. It's got a lot of really nice detailed pictures that we can use. But of course, the main draw for any book, especially for me, for any of these types of books, color profiles in the very center of the book. And that's right here. This is going to be a huge help and a huge inspiration. As you can see, the very bottom aircraft right here, White 78, that's the aircraft that I'm going to be building. So we have another look at this without any sort of winter washed camo, with the black and the green with the blue underside camos. But that's not all. We also have the famous Galchenko. We have his Lagg-3 Series 1 and Series 4 aircraft, so that's really cool. And it just goes on from there, showing us different color patterns, different versions, different series, and of course all the way to the 66 series. And then it goes on from there. We have the LA5, LA5F, LA5FN, all the way to the LA7. So we have a lot of good information, and it should be a really good resource to use. So I'm jazzed. I'm very excited about that. So that's what we're going to be building. We're going to have here the Lagg-3 Series 11 from ICM 148 scale. We have a good assortment of actual books that we can use, plus the amazing website of Soviet warplanes. Go ahead and check that link out. It's in the description below. That is going to be a huge help for us as well. So that's about all we have for today. I wanted to thank each and every one of you for watching the video. Joe, let me know when is a good time to go ahead and start, and we'll kick this into high gear. So until next episode, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Go out there, get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool. Make sure to head over to Mad Genius Productions. Check out Joe's site. He's a great modeler, awesome guy. And we will see you back here on the next episode of Ben Builds with Joe. And we're going to see what we can do. If you have a Lagg and you want to jump in on it, feel free to do so. And we will see you back here next week. Take care, and we'll see you soon.